Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and today's video, my May reading wrap up. So May was officially my highest reading month of the year in terms of books. I read 24 books, which just beats March by one book. No, February, not March. With a read page count of 8,385, which is actually less than February, but still. And my average rating of the month balances out to a 3.25, which isn't great, but it isn't awful. So let's get on with what I read and what I thought. Firstly, we did not start the month off on great terms. I read Perfectly Preventable Deaths by Deirdre Sullivan. We follow two twins, Maddie and Caitlin. They're 16. They've just moved to this new town. And strange things start to happen. Is it Caitlin? One of the sisters, I think Caitlin, gets like enamored with this man who's too old for her for sure. Bit odd, very paedophilic kind of relationship, very toxic relationship. And her sister is trying to stop this and stop what is happening, try to drill some sense into her, but something is going on. There's a lot of paranormal aspects to the story. I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't like it. I gave it a 2 stars. It really wasn't my thing, despite how excited I was for it. It did start off quite promising with some really beautiful quotes. Like you can see I've highlighted quite a lot just on first couple of pages. Very beautiful writing at the beginning. But then it felt as it went on, like it just never got revised. Like they worked really hard at the beginning of the book and then just kind of let the rest of the book do its own thing. And I did not appreciate that. It was like not a bad book all the way through. Like I kind of was enjoying it up to the middle point, or even up to the 75% point. I was like, it is what it is. It's quite nice. It was very reminiscent, in my opinion, of Horrid, which I much preferred. But honestly, we got to the end and I just decided I hated everything. I couldn't believe the ending. I was over it. It was not great, in my opinion. And yeah, I just don't recommend. It's a bit dark for a YA, so that was fun. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It's been a month since I read it. I just did not like it at all. The vibes are there. The vibes are definitely there. But the whole story just kind of annoyed me. The characters annoyed me. The plot annoyed me. The outcome annoyed me. So that's all I have to say about that one. Next, I read Flower Crowns and Fearsome Things by Amanda Lovelace. This is a poetry collection. I think it's supposed to be based around Persephone, where we all have our nice, flowery, light side, and then we also have our powerful, scary, dark side as women, which was really, really cool. I like that aspect. So I liked reading the nice poetry about us and our girly sides, and then our like harsher, grittier sides, I guess. It's hard to describe. And how they come together to make us who we are, and how both sides are just as powerful as each other, despite people thinking one means the other. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 stars, and it definitely had the potential to be 5. I just really didn't enjoy the nice flowery side of it. I much more enjoyed the fearsome side. I just felt like they were a lot more powerful of a poem. I thought that they meant more to me. They had more of an impact on me. I could resonate more with them because I feel like as women, we are put down a lot for that side of our personalities. You know, we're sometimes expected to be these docile people and creatures, I suppose. And I don't like that. So the fearsome poems definitely resonated with me more, making me more angry about the way women are treated and things. So I just enjoyed that a lot more, especially with that being the intent of the poetry collection. So that one I definitely recommend. It would have been a 5-star if it had been all of those types of poems. I just don't really resonate with the other side of the book, really. But definitely recommend, definitely very fun, and I like the concept of it a lot. Next, I read The Roommate by Rosie Dannon. I did not have very high expectations for this. This was so good. I gave it a 4 stars. It is based around a romance where our protagonist, Clara, moves across the country, I believe from New York to LA. And when she gets there, the guy that she moved for is leaving. He's like, oh no, I'm going out for the band. Like, you can just stay at my house. Don't worry about it. You know, I'll be back in a couple of months. And she's like, what? I moved across the country because I'm in love with you and you're leaving. So he wasn't a bad guy. He was just not very thoughtful on her feelings. And when she's there, she finds out that he's rented his room out to a guy on Craigslist. And she's like, are you joking? But the guy comes and it turns out he's really nice and he is a porn star. And she finds this out, that he's this very famous porn star. And this is where it like got really interesting for me. So not only do we have the romance in this book, like the typical romance, really cute, really fluffy, a bit steamy, which was really nice, but also we have important topics. So this book obviously covers the sex work industry and how it's so taboo to be talking about it, that the people working within that industry don't really get the chance to speak out about their experiences because it's taboo, and how a lot of people within the industry aren't treated correctly or fairly. And so it's all about Clara, who is this like very traditional family, you know, uptight, would never be talking about sex work kind of thing. A lot of family work and politics. It's about her partnering with this guy who's very famous within the porn star industry to create fair porn that is like made for women. It's really interesting of a story, but I just love the way that it comes with this extra level to it, really. You know, I love a romance as it is, but I also love when a romance comes with another step up of the storyline, just for me to enjoy something as well as the romance. It just makes me always feel more in tune with the characters, and I really, really enjoy that. So this is definitely 100% one I recommend, and I'm really excited to pick up the sequel, The Intimacy Project, something like that, and it's based on Naomi, who's in this book, the ex of the porn star, but she's really nice. I'm really excited to see her story. But yeah, definitely recommend it, and it is still £2 on Amazon, so, and in the works as well. So I would definitely recommend you pick this up because it was so good. I gave it 4 stars, as I said. I don't know what stopped me from giving it a 5. I think it was just like a lack of, like, I didn't quite emotionally invest in the characters as much as I wanted to. And I just, yeah, the romance wasn't the forefront for me personally. It just wasn't like something I was incredibly invested in, but that doesn't mean it was a bad romance. I really enjoyed it, and I will be rereading this in the future for sure. Next, I read Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ichiguro, and I've already gotten rid of my copy. If that doesn't tell you everything it needs to, I don't know what will. It was a great concept in concept. It was a great idea in concept. It was thought-provoking sometimes. The execution just didn't land for me. I really did not enjoy the story. First of all, Clara and the as an AI, I mean, there's only so many ways this book can go, right? So from the beginning, you kind of know most of the story was going to happen. And at the beginning, I was really invested in, like, I was a bit bored. I will admit I was a bit bored. But I was really invested in, like, where this was going. And I started to realise what was happening with the girl, because Clara is this little girl's AI, like an AI friend. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a sad but like really good story. And then we kind of ended up trying to break machinery, and I was like, what is going on? Like, truly, what is going on? I do not understand a word of what's happening here. I quite literally ended it so confused, and I had to read the last chapter 3 times to get it. Like, I was at that point where my brain was fried. It ended as exactly how you'd expect it to end, because that's how they all end. That's how the only way it really can end. So I was like, okay, it's very slice of life, which I like usually, but I suppose, you know, it's set in this like tiny like farmland place where there's not a lot of people, and there wasn't a lot of plot. I don't know. I was just very confused. It felt like someone was just like pulling scenes from random places and trying to put them into a book together without really thinking them through. There was also this scene where like things were overlapping. I can't explain without spoiling things, but Clara's having a moment, so you're supposed to experience what's happening from in Clara's head, I think. And it meant that things were overlapping and you were getting different conversations at the same time. It was very stressful. That's what started my confusion, and I couldn't recuperate from that moment onwards. I was just fried. I had a headache and everything, so I did not enjoy. The writing style is also very peculiar, very different to what I've normally read. I've never read a Kazuo Ichiguro book before, so I didn't know what to expect going in for that. And it just wasn't my personal favourite. It was very hard to follow, but obviously writing styles are a very personal thing, so you may like it. It just truly was not for me. Like, I'm really glad that's over, I'm not gonna lie. I almost DNF'd it at the beginning because it was boring, and now I wish I had, because I did not get much payoff out of that story. I found it more of a challenge to read it than an enjoyment to read it, and that's not what I want in a book. Next, I read Hot Vampire Next Door Season 2 by Nikki St. Crow. This is like a vampire series where we follow a girl who lives next door to a vampire and they fall in love, I guess, if you can call it that. It's just a smut, not plot book, okay? And for that reason, I gave it 3 stars. I think it served what it meant to serve. But it does have a plot, don't get me wrong, it has a plot. It's just not a very good plot. Well, it's very hard to describe. It's not that it's not a good plot. It's just, I don't know. Nikki St. Crow, I'm not sure on their writing style for me personally. I'm not sure it's my tastes. And the smut in this book does not work for me because it feels so rushed. A lot of the scenes are just quick scenes, like sex scenes. There's no like nice moments between the characters because it's like I suppose a toxic relationship, but not really. I don't really know how to describe it, so I'm not going to continue trying to. If it sounds like your kind of thing, pick it up, have a good time. But yeah, let's just move on because I don't know what else to say about this story. I mean, I had a funnish time, 3 stars. Next we have Zodiac Academy Fated Throne by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. You all know what I'm gonna say. This is my favourite series of all time. I love it to pieces. Like, I don't get that slander. I don't get it. This is perfection. This is the 6th book in the series, so the next book is the last one currently written. I'm terrified. This was painful. I think this might have been the saddest book in the series so far. I have so many tabs. I have so much depression. I think I was crying 11 or 12 pages in. So that's really great. I don't even know what to say. I'm hugging this book in sadness. Like, I don't know where we're gonna go from here. I don't know where the ideas in this book came from, but these authors are cruel, evil people for doing this to me. I love this series. The characters are everything. The plot is really, really in-depth, really, really good. It's definitely branching out further than what I expected from this story, and I'm really impressed by that. I love every character, even the ones that I hate. It's like a hate to love, you know, and they're really good. Like, the bad guy in this story is a really good bad guy. Like, I actually hate him. The school is such a great setting. I honestly, I just really have nothing but good things to say. I feel overwhelmed every time I talk about this story because I don't know how to put into words how I feel about it. It's really a difficult time for me. Thoughts and prayers, please. I guess I'll just move on, but like 5 stars, absolutely amazing. Very thick. Like, you know, if you're going into the series, you are making a commitment because it is dense. It is dense, and there's definitely fluff. Like, there's definitely scenes that don't need to be in a book. Like, they could definitely chop this book in half, but I don't want them to. Like, I want these scenes. That's what I want from every book. This is just absolute perfection. I have nothing more to say. Next, I read The Inadequate Heir by Daniel L. Jensen. This is the 3rd book in the Bridge Kingdom series. However, we are now following new people. So we still have the original people, Laura and Erin, something like that. I've always liked those two. I really liked the first 2 books, but they were nothing special. I think one was 3.5, one was 4. This book was something else. So we follow new people whose names I have forgotten. Karen, and Zara or something like that. This was so good. I gave it a 4.5. The only reason I didn't get a 5 is because some scenes dragged. Like, just some. And the way it ended broke my heart. And I would have liked it to end in other ways. So, I mean, I say it broke my heart. It's not the end. Like, we're getting another book with these people. This is a very long series. I think it's always going to follow some different people. So we're going to get like 2 books each, I think. I almost DNF'd this book when I first picked it up, and I was like, am I reading the wrong book? Like, they uploaded the wrong audio file or something, because this is not the story that I was following. And then I looked at some Goodreads reviews and people were saying I was dubious about these new characters, and I was like, you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of the series, so like, well, it was a good series, but like, I wasn't like hyped on it like a Zodiac Academy. So I thought, do I need to continue it? And I almost DNF'd it, but I thought, no, give it a chance. And I'm so glad that I did. 4.5, amazing. Like, so in depth and in detail and written really, really well. Like, these characters feel so real and the plot felt reasonable. Like, the characters felt stuck and there wasn't this obvious solution like there usually is in books where you're like, just do that. Like, what are you doing? Whereas in this book, like, you actually couldn't come up with a solution. You were like, I understand why you are stuck the way you are stuck. And I really like that in a story because it makes it feel a bit more realistic. I really like the setting, I really like the bad guys. It was gruesome, it was scary. Like, I was actually tense in the moments I was supposed to be tense. And I always listen to these books on Audible because they're free if you have an Audible subscription. So I always get an Audible subscription for a month so I can listen to that free and get another book. Because they're so well done, like when it like rains and stuff, it has like rain at the end of the chapter, and there's like a situation that happens in the book which causes a certain noise that haunts a character, and it plays that sound repeatedly. It's just really, really well done. Like, it's a real good production. So I definitely recommend checking out those audiobooks, especially the first one. Like, that first book, The Bridge Kingdom, is very well done on audio. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this series. I really, really enjoy it. As I said, the third one is better because the characters to me are so much better. But all of it is a good series. Would recommend, and can't wait for the next one. Next we have A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. I was really excited to pick this up. Dark academia, mystery, I would say slightly horror-ish at times. I really, really like this. I gave it a 3.5 because I have my issues as well. I loved the character. What was her name? Felicity. Felicity was fascinating. Watching her go through the thought process that she goes through is really, really cool. But I wanted more backstory to her. I felt like she was very shallow and lacking in a lot of ways. She had many things to her, but it was more instances that had happened to her that created her backstory instead of more about her. So I would have liked to have seen a bit of more depth in that regard. I didn't really love, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a character that's in this book. I don't know how to say this without giving it away. I just didn't like her. If you've read it, maybe you know who I'm talking about. There's a writer. I didn't like her. I thought she was poorly written, and I get her point of the character. I get what her point was in the story, and it was good. Like, her plot line was good. I just wanted more from it. I wanted it to be beefed up a bit. I didn't like her as a character, as a personality. Maybe you're not supposed to, though. So, like, I'm not holding that against the book. I don't know if you're supposed to like her. I just really did not. Like, I did not trust her at all in any of the situations we were in. What I will say about this book is if you like Truly Devious, this is Truly Devious rewritten. Like, it is, but without the found family friendships, because it doesn't quite have the same, there's not like good friendships in this book. But other than that, like, I was imagining, because I was imagining sets in my head, I was imagining the exact same house as in the schoolhouse, as is in Truly Devious. The school felt similar, the scenery felt similar, Felicity felt the same as, I can't remember her name from Truly Devious, oops. Yeah, all very similar. However, this is sapphic, so can't complain about that one. We love to see it. The vibes in this are really, really good. I really like how dark it was. I really like some of the like witchy side of things. It's definitely got, unlike Truly Devious, it's very witchy. Our main character sees herself as a witch. They do a lot of tarot. There's like a witch secret society in this. Very good, very fun. I just felt in some ways I was disappointed and it was lacking a little bit, especially at the end. I was like, okay. But definitely not a bad book, definitely very enjoyable, and I would love to reread it again, knowing what I know now. Next, I read The Afterlife of the Party by Marlene Perez. This is a fun paranormal YA story based for teens. My sister literally finished reading this morning and really enjoyed it. She said it was really fun, so she can't wait to read the next one. It's definitely not based for my age group. Definitely not. It's definitely made for a younger teen, so bear that in mind. But it has darker themes as well, based on this like vampire band who kidnap girls, and they kidnap this one girl who, what's her name, Sky, and she's friends with our main character, whose name again I can't remember. It's not very memorable. And she's in love with this guy called Vaughn, and then Skylar gets abducted, but like she's also brainwashed, so she doesn't know she's been abducted. Like, she wants to be fed from these vampires. And so our main character and Vaughn go on a mission to save her. The only thing, like, I didn't love the book because a lot of things felt very trivial. There were some obvious instances where I was like, just do this. What are you doing? And I had that typical thing of like, why aren't you involving adults? And then when the adults are involved, it's like, why are you acting this way, adult? You're an idiot. Like, there's supposed to be this gran in here that you love, and I hate Granny. I hate Granny with a passion. Like, I was like, you idiot. So yeah, I don't think I quite got the love that everyone else had for it. So, oops. but it also wasn't built for my age group, and I'm gonna think things are trivial because I'm an adult who would not see things the same way teens would, and I would not react to the same things that teens would. So it wasn't meant for me. I can understand why it wasn't my favourite book. Next, I read The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This is the second book in the Off-Campus series. I loved the first book, The Deal, so I was really excited to go into this. However, I had heard a lot of negative things. Apparently this is like the worst in the series. Nobody likes Logan or the main character, Grace. So I was very dubious about going in, and I don't know how I feel. I settled on a 3-star overall, but the thing is, this book is very complex because there are some scenes to me that are 5 stars, like had me squealing. Like I was like, oh my God, so cute. And then there were other scenes that were 1 star. Hated them, toxic, disgusting. Why is that in a book? Like the things Logan sometimes said to Grace, I was like, oh my God. If someone said that to me, dead. Like, not ever happening again. This relationship, over. You're dead to me. So it's a difficult one to review because I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. There were scenes that did different things for me. I'm not really sure what the intention from the author was. All I can say is I definitely know why people don't like it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad book, because again, it was a really fun romance. Logan was fun. He had good backstory. Grace was fun, but I'm going to be honest, I don't remember any of her backstory or anything about her, other than the fact her entire personality trait just seemed to be that she was a virgin in college. Oh, our next book. Like, don't call me basic, okay? But I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I loved this book. Oh, I loved it. I read Verity and was not impressed. And I thought, Colleen Hoover is not going to be an author for me. I really did not like the writing style. So I thought, like, how am I going to enjoy her other books? But I own them. So I was like, I'm going to read them. Well, you know what? I eat my words because, wow, this book was so well constructed. Did it have issues? A handful. However, this is like a 7-star book. Forget 5 stars. We're on the 7 stars. This was so impressive. Definitely one of my favourite books of the year so far. Oh, goodbye gift note, thank you. I don't want to say anything about this because you probably already know. This book would have held such a punch for me if I hadn't been aware of everything going into it, because TikTok doesn't understand what a spoiler is and just seems to think you can tell everybody everything about a book and it's okay. So it didn't hold the like punch it was meant to when a certain something happened. Let's just say that this romance is not a very simple romance. It is a very, I don't even know, it's something else. I don't know how to describe this without ruining it. It is a sole POV, dual timeline. You are following Lily. In her current day, she meets a guy called Ryle. Is that his name? Yeah, who calls a guy Ryle? Anyway, she meets a guy called Ryle. He's a doctor. She starts dating him in her current timeline. However, you are seeing a past timeline where Lily is young. Yeah, she's 15, and then you see her going through the year until she turns 16. And she meets a homeless boy called Atlas who lives in this abandoned house opposite her, and she creates a friendship with him, and ultimately a very sweet teenage-ish romance. Not teenage-ish romance, a teenage romance-ish, like it's kind of a romance. But really, it was very sweet friendship. Like, I really enjoyed their friendship together. I don't know how to tell you how good this book is without spoiling it. Even the moment in which I already knew what was going to happen, because it had been spoiled for me, I still went, oh my God. Like, even though I already knew, like, that's how in-depth it was. It's so good. Like, I was so invested in this world. I read it in one sitting. After reading a different 2 books, I read 2 books in the day and was like, oh, I think I'll just start this, see how I feel. Couldn't stop. Lynn came home. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, can't talk to you, sorry, just let me finish this. So good. I'm so invested. I was so in love. And Lily as well isn't just having these 2 romances with these 2 men like at different timelines. We're also seeing her friendship in this new woman, her like new best friend, and this friendship growing, her home life changing and evolving, her relationship with her mother changing and evolving, her building up this business, you know, changing her life completely. It was just so, I cannot believe this book isn't like 800 pages. It is literally a 370 page book. and it holds the content of an 800-page book. Next we have The Lunar Wolf by G. Bailey. This is the first book in the Moon Alpha series. I'm not going to give you too much information on this because I have an Instagram review dedicated to this book, so you can go over there and check. Links are always below. I will just say that my main points of this book is I did enjoy it. It delivered what it was trying to deliver. It was fun, but the pacing was incredibly off. The first half was really slow, and then the second half was so fast that I actually am not really sure what happened at the end. I was like, what? And also, so much of the end is a different book. So this is the end. This is it. So I thought I had so much left to go, and then I turned the page and it was finished. And I was like, what? Like, we were left in a very interesting place. But I did think a lot of aspects were good. I thought the characters were fun. There's a guy called Atlas in here as well, same as the last book. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. But you're gonna have to check out my Instagram review if you want to know more. Next, I read Young Women by Jessica Moore. This is just definitely going to be my cup of tea. Like, I always knew from the beginning I was going to really enjoy this. It's about this woman, Emily, and she kind of feels like she's in a rut a bit, but she meets this woman called Tamsin who... I don't even know how to describe this book. It's very slice of life again. Like, you know, you just see Emily in this life in London, meeting Tamsin and starting to live her life. Like, they start to have like cooking and wine nights. They start to have all this fun experience of going out for dinner. And she like feels enamored with Tamsin. But then there's this storyline where we find out that there's this man. She works for a charity that helps people who have been sexually assaulted by their employers. And they like basically help them with like the lawyers and stuff like that and what they can do. And so this case comes up where this really big director of movies has been assaulting many women. And like, what can they do with it? And yeah, it's a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of just slice of life. Very, very quick read, very enjoyable and very like powerful to women. Like, I thought this was really, really fascinating to read. As a woman, I felt very empowered, even though, again, it's kind of like one of those situations where you see how much power men have over women, and yet you still feel powerful knowing the love between women and like women supporting women and things like that. So yeah, I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was very, very enjoyable. And as it says on the back, there are some books that you want to share with other women, and there are some books you have to. That is literally perfect, because this is exactly what this book is like. I feel like women just need to read this. Next, I have a bit of a controversial one. I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I read this as a buddy read with Lauren, and I have to say that is the only reason this book didn't get a 1 star from me. I give it 2, just to clarify. We had a great time discussing things. Lauren had already read it before, so they knew exactly what was going on, but I did not. But I had a great time discussing theories and like what I thought was going to happen at the end, and like what I thought should have happened, and my other expectations for the ending. But I did not enjoy this book at all. It's a good idea. It could have been executed better. So the main problem with this book is it's too long, okay? It is like 600 and something pages for nothing. You're following Richard, who is a poor guy, like physically poor, like has no money, twins. And he goes to this college and he wants to go into the Greek class, the Greek Latin class, Greek mythology class. I've tried to block this whole book out of my brain. And if he does so, that is the only class he can take. The teacher says, I will be the only one teaching you. And he says, fine, I'll do it. It's like this tiny little club. And he makes friends with the people who are already in this club. Okay, so basically you just follow their life. But it's a dark turn. There's a twisty turn of events. It's like a murder mystery, thrillery. Don't know what else to tell you. Oh my God. The thing is, the book is absolutely riddled with nuances that I am not clever enough to understand, bearing in mind. This is a perfect book for a literature student, someone studying English Lit, who could go through sentence by sentence and understand all the cool things that I did not understand. But I was not going to sit there and do that, okay? I was stressed enough. It took me long enough to read this book. I didn't want to add anything more to it. My biggest and main criticism is the fact that the writing is so it's overwritten, it's over-described, and it's very pretentious, like incredible. This is the most pretentious book I've ever read, and for no reason. That because it's so over-described, you are reading blocks of words that have one important sentence. It has one meaning, but you're trying, or it like doesn't even directly tell you what happened. You have to infer it. And it became such a slog to get through, trying to get that tiny piece of information out of this hundreds of words, that I actually was getting headaches every day. We read a set amount of pages. Every day I got headaches trying to like understand and read, because so much of it was just unnecessary words. But obviously this is a very popular book. Like even Lauren loves this book. Everybody seems to love this book. So I can understand, like, it's cool. Definitely cool dark academia vibes. I really enjoyed the storyline and where it went. I know that a lot of people love it. It's just not for me. I'm not saying it's a bad book, 'cause obviously it's not, because it's like one of the best sellers ever. But I'm glad I didn't pay full price for the book. That's what I'll say on that one. And I don't think it'll be sticking with me for long. Next, I read A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Now, this is like a really fun, super short sci-fi story, and I'm not a sci-fi girly, so I went in with low expectations, I must admit. But it was fun. It was a good time. I think I gave it 3 stars. It came and did what it meant to do. It made me giggle quite a lot of times. I don't want to say anything about it, because so much of it is like the whole book is so short. It's under 200 pages that I feel like anything I give will spoil it. But basically Earth comes to an end and you follow an alien and a human who then like try and get off the Earth and end up on spaceships. Very fun. I'm not entirely sure what the point of it was. I'm not entirely sure. And I was confused, because sci-fi is just not my genre. That's my fault. That's no one else's fault. This was one of my granddad's favourite books. Dune and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was were both his favourites. So I just wanted to read it to like know what he loved about it, and I can see why everyone likes it. It just wasn't like the best book in the world for me, but it was fun, you know. I think I'll probably read the next one at some point, which is a good sign, but I have nothing productive to say on the matter, so we'll leave it at that. Next, I read A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. Can we first of all talk about this cover? Because wow, it is stunning. I love this cover. This is like, oh god, what even is this? This is a story that like focuses mostly on Scottish mythology and folklore, which, oh my goodness, I absolutely loved. That was such a cool aspect to the story. I wish I'd annotated it. I think next time I read it, I will definitely do that. We follow Jack, who has had to return to the island, and he ends up having to help because little kids are going missing and they believe the spirits of the island are kidnapping them, and they need to contact the spirits to stop that happening. This is the first book in a series, and I'm so excited to see where it goes from here. The island cadence was my absolute favourite thing. There's this rivalry going on between the two sides that are split down with a river, and I just want to hear more about that. It was really, really fun. This is definitely a book for the people who are fans of mythology retellings, because it is slow as anything. Is so slow, exactly like mythology retellings are, which usually I would hate, but recently I've just started to love. So it was a really good book. I will say it was a 5-star until the like maybe last 100 pages, where I just started to lose any sense of focus. I just started to be like, I'm really not that interested anymore. Like, I have become quite bored. And considering I'd gotten through slog of nothing happened, that was quite surprising to me, for that to have started happening at the end where things were happening. So I can't really give you a reason as to why that was, but I absolutely love this. I cannot wait to move on to the next one. I completely understand why everyone loves it. Beautiful lyrical writing, a really nice introduction to Scottish folklore mythology, which is not something I've read before, but I can also understand why it wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea if slow-paced stories aren't your cup of tea. It won't be for you. But if it is, definitely recommend. Next, I read The Dating Game by Sandy Barker. Now, this is advertised as a romance, but I'm going to tell you, it is not. Okay, it is not a romance. We are following Abby, who is a journalist, who writes about, like, she writes under a pseudonym. Is that what it's called? Yeah, maybe. This weekly blog thing in a newspaper or online journal about this, like, a bachelorette / Love Island show. She reviews and catches you up on the week, and the like makers of this show contact her and say they want her to be in the show to get an inside scoop, and she's like, no, I do not want that. And then her boss is like, you will do it because this is really good for your career, and she's like, fair enough. So she has to go on this reality TV show to get the scoop she wants to get, but she can't tell anyone. why she's there or what she's doing. Now, I want to start by saying how much I love that plotline, because we're going to start off with the positives. That is such a unique and fun storyline. The girls in this book, there were some horrible mean girls, but there was also some great girls who had so much camaraderie with each other, even though they were rivals, and they did acknowledge the fact they were rivals and that things were going to go wrong. They still were really good to each other. I felt like it was really well written, blending two separate lives with each other. Abby was a really good protagonist for this as well. She was very in-depth. She was a great character to read through the lens of, but I did not like the story. So obviously there's a main guy who is part of the Bachelorette, but he's not the love interest in this. There's another love interest, I believe his name is Jack, who is like a producer of the show. So obviously like some sort of forbidden-ish romance is in this. There is no romance. Like, there were so many opportunities for angsty scenes in this. Even if it didn't want to be like a smutty book, that's fine. It didn't have to be, you know, steamy. It just had a lot of options to have some tension or some angst, and it had nothing. Absolutely nothing. We saw more of the fake romance with the bachelor man on the TV than we did with the actual romance. Nothing happened. I didn't care about either of them. There was no depth to the love interest, who I think, again, his name is Jack. It was bland with a capital B. Boring. I did not care. Every time she was with him, I was like, oh my god, which wasn't even a lot, because the story is not a romance, which was fine. If this hadn't been advertised to me as a romance, I would not have read it as a romance, and I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. I also have to say though that I did not enjoy the writing style in this. I really was not a fan. It was very cringy, very trying to be hip and trendy when it was not. Like, and also she's trying to be funny, and it wasn't funny. The humour was very shoehorned in, and I literally was rolling my eyes. So it wasn't very good in that aspect. And also you had recaps. You were reading her entries of like her journal or blog or whatever. You were reading the recap of what you just read. So like it was very repetitive. Some things were new, but some of it was just very repetitive and not that interesting. So yeah, I didn't love this book, but I will say it's not a bad book. It's definitely fun, but you have to go in being aware that the romance is not the forefront of this story. It is instead a fun reality TV show story, and I think then you'd really enjoy it. But yeah, I couldn't enjoy it because I had expectations that it did not meet, because it was wrongly advertised, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm torn on how I feel. It wasn't necessarily a bad book, but I did give it a 2 stars because my enjoyment levels weren't very high. Next, I read The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Now, if you saw my most recent vlog, you'll see me freaking out about this book. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a very, very good book. This got a 4 stars from me. It is a very chunky romance. I know a lot of people have different opinions on this. I personally loved it. Now, are there problems? Yes, there are. But first of all, starting with the good. I loved Grace and Aaron. I thought they had a lot of chemistry. I thought they had a lot of tension. I love fake dating. I love an office romance. I fell in love with the 2 characters. I also fell in love with their romance together. It is hate to love, or enemies to lovers, but like it is more one-sided enemies. Like they don't really come across as enemies in my opinion. She hates him, but he does not hate her, and you can tell from the beginning. So was it really enemies? Not sure. My issues with the book, the reason it did not get 5 stars is because of a couple of reasons, but the main ones that I'll go into now is I don't like the way it talks about diet culture. It seems to talk down to people who are, you know, victims of diet culture, to be honest. It talks down about them and basically portrays that they're not clever enough to understand why it's wrong. I did not enjoy that at all. I thought that was a bit offensive to a lot of people. I also did not like the way that Grace's family spoke to her, because it is such a traditional thing that I think we all have just accepted that it happens, where our parents, mainly women in the family, but everyone, will tell you you look bad, or what you should be doing. You should be losing weight, or you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you look stupid looking like that, you look bad like that, shouldn't do that. I just hate it. I don't know what gives them the right, just because they always say, I'm your mother, I don't want you looking stupid. And it's like, what gives you the right to talk down about my appearance? Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to hear it being said to our main character in the book either. And it wasn't talked about like in a way of like, oh, this is wrong, we're going to put it in the book and discuss it. No, it was like as if it was normal, which it is, I suppose. But I didn't like it, and I don't like it when it happens in real life. I don't like it when it happens in my books. And I think we all need to stop accepting that family can talk down to you. I can't remember what the other thing was. I did talk about it in my vlog, but I also really liked the ending wasn't this massive fallout, miscommunication. It felt a bit more realistic. So yeah, I like that because I hate third act drama and romances. So I definitely recommend this, and I will definitely be rereading it at some point and potentially annotating it. I'm going to talk about the next two at once. I read The Initiation and The Obsession by Nikki Sloan. And I'm going to admit I had high expectations because I really love the Nashville Neighbours series by Nikki Sloan. So I went in with a bit of high expectations, and I should not have. These books were subpar. I can't even remember what happened. There's a girl who's forced to marry this man to save her family from debt. And they hate each other, and then it's kind of like enemies to lovers, but he keeps betraying her. I don't know, I got halfway through the third book and I've stopped reading it. I just don't care enough, but the cliffhangers are always good enough to make you want to continue reading. So I decided halfway through the third book, like I'm halfway through, there's no cliffhanger, just stop now. The first book, 3 stars, I thought it had good aspects, and then the second book I gave 2 stars, I didn't enjoy at all. I don't really have much to say, it was just a bit meh, a bit predictable. A booktuber did spoil the book in their review, which wasn't even a review, it was like 2 sentences, but they still spoiled it, so I was like, well, I know where it's going. I hate when that happens. But yeah, I really didn't enjoy that, so I have nothing else to say. I'm just going to move on from it. I read it and I did not like it. Next, I read the 3rd installment of Hot Vampire Next Door by Nikki St. Crow, and my feelings are the same as the second one. I again gave it 3 stars. It is what it is. It was fun. It, again, had way too rushed story or sex scenes. The storyline was there. It just feels like it's like reveal after reveal after reveal, and you kind of just hit with them, and it's gotten to the point where I can't remember what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I need to recap every time. So I really don't think I want to continue with the series. Like, I'm glad I'm caught up, but like I'm done. It is a cool storyline though. Like, cool things happen, fun things happen. It's just not my favourite. And some things that happen in these books make me gross out. Next, I read Sophia Khan and the Baby Blues by Aisha Malik, and I hated this. I gave it 1 star. This is a super short, like, I suppose, novella from the quick read section following Sophia, and she is fostering this child. And because she is fostering this child, hoping to adopt, she leaves her husband because he does not want a baby. This is her 2nd marriage that has ended in divorce. So she has to move back with her mother, and we start the book where she's living with her mother after her failed marriage, but she doesn't care because this baby is all that matters to her. Then we see her first husband, the first one, moving next door to her mother's house, and it goes from there. This book is offensive, for a start, really offensive to everyone. It's got the stupidest ending on the planet. Like, I couldn't believe that happened. What was the point in the book then? Like, it literally like makes the whole thing pointless. Everything, all of her struggles, pointless. I just did not care. I absolutely hated the original husband's son, and I don't really understand how he's supposed to ever be redeemed. And he never really was, and you just supposed to kind of accept that he was going to grow out of it. Like, no, not even talk about it anymore. Awful. Won't be staying on my shelves for long, that's for sure. The last 2 books are 5-star books. So we ended the month very well, and I think I found a brand new favourite author for me. Let's start with 3 Swedish Mountain Men by Lily Gold. I'm going to be honest, I did not have high expectations. I just picked this up. I am a huge fan of Credence by Penelope Douglas. It is my favourite book of all time. As much as I hate to admit that, I'm not going to lie. I absolutely love that book because the vibes are everything. This is the exact same. The exact same, but without the problematic elements that everybody else hates. There's no incest in this book. There is no potential blurring lines of consent in this book. It is all fabulous. It was delicious. I mean, it doesn't beat Credence, but it was definitely like up there. And I'm going to now force all of my friends that I've forced into reading Credence to read this one. So enjoy that, friends. I bet you can't wait. We follow this one girl whose name I can't remember. That's really helpful. But we follow her, and she's had something happen to her. Now, I could say what it is. She has had something happen to her because of her ex that has driven her out of her home. Her family won't speak to her. She has lost her job as a teacher. It has been a very dark time for her, so she decides to go somewhere where people people won't know her. People recognise her, they won't know her. So she runs away to Sweden, because that's normal. And when she gets there, she gets chased in the car by a moose and crashes the car. And these guys come along and pick her up, and one of them's a real grump and the other one's a real not grump, and they're all hot. And she has to stay in their house because it is snowing, and they say like, we will get you to a hotel in the town ASAP. We don't want you here. Well, one of them doesn't want her there. One's a doctor, one is he goes to protect the moose. He's like one of those people, like a ranger. And what's the other one? I can't remember what the other one does. Don't know. Anyway, it's a reverse harem story, so you can see where it's going to go, can't you? It was just fabulous, absolutely amazing. I loved every single character. I loved it all. I loved the discussion. I can't say what happened to her because it is a spoiler. I mean, I thought it was obvious from the beginning, but I don't want to spoil anything. But I loved that discussion on that. I loved the outcome. I loved everything. So good. And also, if you signed up to Lily Gold's newsletter, she sends you a extra epilogue for every single one of her books. So I definitely recommend that if you read it and enjoy it, because I enjoyed the epilogue as well. But then I decided, because of how much I loved it, to go straight on to another one of her books, because I have all of them on my Kindle apparently. So that was brilliant. I didn't even know. So I read Nanny for the Neighbour, which is like 200 pages longer than the other one. It's like a 500-page book. It's again a reverse harem story. I gave this 5 stars, but I did not enjoy it as much as 3 Swedish Mountain Men, but it was still amazing. We follow this girl who lives in a building, and one day her upstairs neighbours knock and they're like, you need to help us, you're a nanny, right? And she's like, yeah, you need to help us, please, we'll hire you. And she goes upstairs and a baby has been abandoned on their doorstep, and she's like, well, which one of yours is it? And they're like, I don't know, one of ours, because we've all slept with the same girl. So they're trying to navigate the new life of adulthood, of fatherhood. Now, I'll be honest, I hate anything with babies in it. I hate pregnancy trope, I hate single parent tropes. I don't like babies in my stories. So I did not think this one was going to be for me, I'm going to admit. But it was so good because it was upfront with this baby's on the step. You know, that's the beginning of the book. Like, what are you going to do? Like, it doesn't give you any surprise babies. So I loved it for that reason. Like, I was like, thank you for at least being upfront with me. I really, really loved this story. Very, very fun. It doesn't have any like extra discussions like 3 Swedish Mountain Men did. And it did have some annoying feelings. I feel like I wouldn't have loved it as much if I hadn't just read 3 Swedish Mountain Men and felt all that serotonin for the book. But I did love it. And I will say that the second epilogue from her newsletter and this one is really important. Like, I really love that epilogue, and I felt like it came with a lot of extra information for the end of the story. So I would definitely recommend getting it for that one at least. So that is all 24 books that I read in May. That was a really long video to film. I'm sorry if I dwindled at the end. I always do. It's a long, long video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you got some recommendations. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the things I've said, if you've read any of these books, or if any of them are on your TBR or radar. Thank you so much for watching and getting to the end of this video. If you did, thank you so much. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye.